there, I'm here today to do a spoiler-free review for Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The book is missing from my background here because, like a fool, I gave it back to my mom before I filmed because I had a huge brain fart. And I'll put an image here of the edition I read, same as the other ones. Beautiful covers, I love them. But besides the point. So Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince is book 6 in the series. I remember not enjoying it very much the very first time I read through it as a teen. And I think part of it was because I came off the high of reading 5 because I reread it before 6 came out. Because that's what I did. Book 6 is a really interesting book. You get a lot of info on Voldemort and Dumbledore. You get some side characters getting some good development that they desperately needed just to feel more fleshed out. There were a lot of big changes happening in the Wizarding world in this book, a lot of it because of the fallout of book 5, but a lot of it happened off screen, so you kind of find it out as the book goes along because it happened before book 6 started. But it was a book that, although I didn't enjoy it on my first read through, reading it again, especially as an adult, makes me appreciate it a lot more. So, moving to my likes and dislikes, I'll start with my likes. My first big like is the development that a lot of the side characters got. It's stuff that they kind of deserve to get, and I understand why J.K. Rowling waited until this book to do it, but regardless, it was super exciting to have it. My other like is I really liked the progression for Harry in this book, both in terms of his personal growth and in terms of the main plot. It was a really interesting book for me in that respect. And my final like is there were some info dumps over the course of the book, but the way they were done, they were disguised as like information gathering rather than information getting. So it didn't feel as irritating or as arduous to get through, and I really appreciated the way they were written. I'll move into my negatives. I'm going to start with the one that irritated me the most, and it was a lot of the girl-on-girl social issues that were happening in the book. There's one right at the beginning with Fleur, and it's just, I was so aggravated by it, and every time I ran into it, it made me mad in the book. My other negative is somewhat related to this, and it's a lot of the high school-esque like love triangles, romantic relationships, and I get that they are teenagers. At certain points they were so front and center that to me it really detracted from the plot, but it's just something that adult me didn't like. Teenage Nikki ate that shit right up. And then my final, and probably like of the negatives I mentioned, is probably like the one that had the least impact on my enjoyment of the book, and it was the pacing. While overall it wasn't bad, there's a section in the middle that every time I read, when I hit it, I just kind of groan because it's, for me, the part that moves the slowest and has the least progress. And I think it's because the main plot kind of stalls here, and this the personal stuff kind of becomes more important. And to me, at this stage in the game, in terms of where they are in the book and in the series, it was a little disappointing. It's not a big deal. It's really not a big deal, but it's just enough to pull me out of the book that little bit. And that's it for my likes and dislikes. So I will jump here to the characters. Just a few little things, like I'm not going to go as in-depth as I have on previous books because of how far we're in. I don't want to do too many or any spoilers, really. This is the spoiler-free one. I found Dumbledore had a really good story here. You found out a lot about him, and it really expanded his character nicely. Draco also had a little bit of a story arc, and that I enjoyed, although it wasn't as front and center, which was nice. And overall, with the characters, there was a lot of growth. Not so much personality development, but a lot of the characters did a lot of growing up in this book, which was really nice to see. Kind of my final thoughts here with the characters are that a lot of the characters that were introduced in this book, I think, did a really good job of showing the size and scope of what the Wizarding world is, and just added a lot in terms of that, being able to add a little bit more vibrancy to the population. And with this out of the way, I'll move on to my wrap-up. I really enjoy this book. I know a lot of people don't care for it. I found it added a lot, even if it wasn't like the most consistent or best book in the series. I still give it a 4 out of 5. I still quite enjoy it a lot, especially more as an adult, seeing some of the different things that are playing out in the arcs make a lot more sense to me now. So overall, like, it is a pretty terrific read. Just a few negatives, like specifically with the girl-on-girl issues that were so irritating, and then that dragging in the middle that made it a little bit harder to slog through. This book did a really good job of showing Dumbledore, showing the power of the dark side, and not even just the power of the dark side, but like the fear that they impress upon the public. It's a really solid read. I enjoy this way more than I enjoy like The Chamber of Secrets and The Prisoner of Azkaban, which are two of my least favorite books in the series. And if you've read all the way up to 5, I really recommend continuing on with the series. You're invested at this point, and 6 is just as solid an entry as anything else. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!